Most people don't get chance to even watch a World Championships, never mind take part in one, and whilst it's always great to see your nation's team compete in them, the result doesn't always tell the full story. So in this video we show you what it was actually like to be part of the Preston Innovations England feeder team when they went away to Belgium to go and compete in the 2022 World Feeder Fishing Championships. We'd already been over to Belgium to have a look at the venue 3 weeks prior to the championship. That gave us a great idea of how diverse this venue would actually be. It also gave us the opportunity to look for accommodation. When you're travelling abroad in a competition like this, when you could be staying away for up to 10 days with a group of anglers, you need accommodation that is obviously going to be able to suit those anglers. You need room for your tackle, you need areas for parking, and you also need areas for your bait preparation as well. It's not all about storage either. You also need an area where you can process that bait. If you're going to be turning maggots, casters, looking after worms and keeping bloodworm and joker, then you need facilities to do that. And that recce trip gave us the opportunity to find the ideal farmhouse where we could base ourselves for the week. That meant that all the basics were taken care of, and when we travelled over there for the World Championships itself, we could focus solely on the fishing. What are you doing, everybody? This is Saturday. We arrived, it was quite late yesterday when we got here. We got to the digs, and by the time we checked in and everything, went and got some food. We went to collect some bait as well. It was quite late, so we didn't get back to the digs till it was actually gone at 11 o'clock last night. But we did obviously have a safe journey over here. We drove over from England. It was we obviously just got the Channel Tunnel through from Folkestone to Calais, and then from Calais we drove through France and then into Belgium, and we're here at the venue. This, if you can just see the board behind me, is B12. That's B12. These are the pegs that are going to be for the World Championships. And this match that's actually taking place behind us is actually, it's a local match, it's a local league match, and it's a fantastic opportunity for teams and nations like ourselves to come along and just see how they're fishing it, see how it's fishing. The organisers, as you can see at the top of the bank up there, they have put the flags out of all the nations taking part, which is fantastic, and that's what's actually making the rattling noise in the wind. These pegs here, this is A and B section, and the wind is actually blowing over our backs here. This is down in what will be B section. As you can see, we're in this big bend, this big crescent. A section is going to be up there, and then this runs right the way down through B section, and then it ends just there. C, D and E are right over there on that point. This is a net fish, as you can see. They've got the wind off the back here, completely different from where it is over on E section. Now E section is the section that we haven't really seen anybody fish. It has had some weeds there, but we have been told that they've taken the weed out. It's been dredged just like all these sections here were quite a few weeks ago. But we haven't seen anyone fishing that, and there's no one fishing it today. So E section is going to be a little bit of an unknown for us. We're expecting the weather to get better, but we're also expecting that, as you can see, I mean, there's a lot of bait going in there today, and then from Monday there will be all the other teams here. We think the number of teams is about 23 that's confirmed. So those teams are obviously all going to stop piling bloodworm and joker in and loads of bait throughout all of these stretches, and we are expecting the venue to change from Monday to Friday in some shape or form. We spent the rest of the afternoon just watching the match, but it also gave us the opportunity to go and find out where the headquarters were, where the draw would be, and it was a great opportunity to meet the organisers and just get more familiar with the venue. It's actually a Sunday now, and as you can see the banks are empty, except for one lonely figure. B23, we're here with Dean. Morning, Dean.
Good morning.
We were here yesterday, we saw how the match went. Have you, I mean, everyone's talked about changes on the venue. It's a massive expanse of water, isn't it? I bet you wish you were fishing, don't you?
Do I? They don't realise how bloody lucky they are. No, but it's a beautiful venue. If you like big water fishing and that, this tops the lot. This does. It's an absolute brilliant venue. Looking forward to it. There's some hard work, some long days to be done, but we're all up for the challenge.
Yeah, tomorrow is first day of training, so that's when the official kind of practice starts. We get a lot more formality tomorrow, from tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah, it's very regimented from tomorrow. 7:30 into the official reception. Drawers, pegs, box numbers for the week. Yeah, and it all starts officially tomorrow.
Obviously, everybody who's on the bank, they've all got a job to do, haven't they, Dean?
Yeah, try and catch as many fish as possible.
That's the lads on the boxes. The lads on the bank, including myself, we will be all over the match length, having a look what's happening and just seeing how it's changing, how it's going to develop.
You need a good team behind you, and obviously there's the anglers, and then there's yourself, Eddie Bryden, Graham West and Rich Wilson, who play a massive part in making sure the anglers have got everything they need. Or I want the guys sitting on the box, I want them to do is think about fishing, nothing else.
Well, a lot of the preparation is behind us now. It's Sunday evening. We're going to have anglers all over the bank tomorrow. We're obviously going to have anglers with the England lads. They're going to be, all 6 anglers are going to be in the box. They're going to be training, the first day of training, trying a few things out. I would imagine we've not really gone into too much detail about it just yet, but it will be a bit of an open day tomorrow for lads just to try different mixes out. They're going to be trying different lines, and a lot of that will be determined by the box that they actually end up fishing tomorrow. As regards the lads on the bank, we will be up and down behind different sections, behind different nations, having a look at the kind of fish that they're catching, how they're fishing it, and just seeing, you know, how each box and each section is actually fishing going into the first day. Everything was in place so we could just enjoy the remainder of the weekend and look forward to a very early start on Monday. It was the first official training day of the week, which meant a 5 AM start. All the lads had a job to do. They were all busy preparing the bait, ready for the first day of training. And whilst the lads were down in E section, I was going to be a little bit further up the match length watching one of the competing nations. It's been a very interesting first day of training. This morning we actually met, or I took Dean down to the draw for 7:30 this morning, and that actually gave us the allocated boxes. So that basically tells us, it's like a matrix that tells you which days, which teams are going to be training in which boxes. That's for the full 5 days, Monday through to Friday. We were up at 5 o'clock this morning. And then we were sorting the bait out from 6 o'clock, just kind of bagging all the bait up, sorting out the bait measures. One of the things that a lot of people probably don't understand about international fishing is that you are only allowed a certain amount of bait, and in some cases you are only allowed a certain amount of bait of a certain type of bait. That is where myself and the other lads are there, just to kind of take that away from them, make sure obviously the bait is good quality, get it bagged up, get it into the bait measures so that the lads can just purely think about their fishing. And that was the first job of today. Very, very apparent that the temperature had really dropped overnight. When I got in the van, I think the temperature gauge said about 7 degrees, but it was obvious that it had been much colder than that overnight. And when we arrived here this morning, it looked like there'd been a frost. There hadn't been a frost, but it was very, very close to a frost. All the grass was wet through, it was literally white over. My job today has been to be behind box number 22, which is just where my finger is, and that's because the team that have practiced in box 22 is Belgium. That is the home nation, and so obviously if anyone's going to know this venue, we would expect it to be that team. So I've literally been there from before the start. I was there for the pre-baiting period, and then I've been there throughout the duration of the match, and it has fished hard. There are some deeper areas. Some of those deeper areas have fished better than the shallower areas. However, the shallower areas have produced some different species. You know, there have been lots of asp caught, lots of roach, some perch. There have actually been some skimmers caught as well, but there have inevitably been some bream caught as well. And from now, today has been the day when bait has gone in on pretty much every peg that's going to be used in the championship. This is when we're now going to be monitoring it, just trying to see how if things are going to change in any sort of way or not now that some bait's gone in. So we've almost finished for today. We've now got to resume what we were doing, start getting the bait ready for tomorrow, and hopefully the lads are quietly confident on what they've caught. The lads had a great session down in E section, and just as I arrived for the last few minutes of the session, Will Freeman hooked into a bream. He's got about 30 seconds to go. He's just hooked this on his last cast. This is Will.
30 seconds.
30 seconds left. This is Will Freeman. International rules, the fish has got to be in the net and clear of the water at the final whistle. Well done, Will.
Out the water.
Out the water. Well done, mate. Time for another one.
Time!
The second day of training was soon upon us, and it meant another 5 AM start. Once all the bait was prepared, we knew exactly which box we were off to, so we knew that we were going to be training in C section. This is an area that we had fished before, but the lads were going to once again just get down in a line. They'd all got some sort of a plan to work to try and figure out how to catch fish in this section, which we expected to be hard. For me, I would be watching some of the other nations again, but where we were on the peninsula of C section going into D section, it looked like there were going to be 3 very, very strong teams fishing all in a row. It's the end of the day. We've just had a very interesting session. There's actually been 3 teams here, which are very good teams that lots of spectators have been watching. On this bend here, they're just packing up now, the lads. They have stopped on a little bit afterwards. We just had a bit of a meeting just to discuss what's happened today. We've had a look at the fish that's been caught. We've had a look at what those fish actually weigh, because with all that information, you know, usually that can give you some sort of an idea that you put together and just try and formulate some sort of a plan should one of our anglers draw this particular section. Then in this box just here, they're all at the top of the bank now. That is Germany, but they've had 3 anglers in this gap here, and this gap, the 3 pegs here aren't, I don't think they're actually going to be pegged in the competition, so there hasn't been much of a gap, to be fair. So we've had Germany that have practiced there, and then just round that corner at the very, very next box has been Hungary. So those are 3 teams that lots and lots of spectators of other nations like to watch on these events. They're very, very strong teams, as you can imagine. So this has kind of been a little bit of a hot spot today. Before these lads pack away, let me just take you up the bank to show you where we've fished today. So the Germans have been there. This has been just a little bit of a gap, only literally in between these ropes here. There's Pluto. I think going around here, we have actually got the permanent match numbers on here to give you an idea of where we are. So the first peg there has been Adam Wakeling. That is going to be peg C16. So this is C section, as you can imagine, peg 16. There's Mr. Ringer. He's gone in on C15. Virtually coming around onto this point here, and then we get to C14, that is Lee Kerry. He's still fishing on at the moment. And then moving further around here, and we've got more of a wind hitting it here, as you can probably tell. Where the Germans have been and the Hungarians, you see the wind off the back, it's been like that all day. However, the wind is coming around this corner, and as you can see, there's much more of a chop on it now. That hasn't been there all day, but it certainly looks more inviting when you've got that wind on it. So there's Lee, next angler along here on C13. He's currently got Dean Barlow behind him. That's Rob Wotton. And the next one up is Mick Viles. He's just preparing his rods for tomorrow on the C12. And then the final peg here, that is actually Graham West who's fishing. But that's not who's been fishing there, it's Will who's been fishing there. Will hasn't changed the way he looks from behind. That is Graham. He's having a little play. Are you catching out, Graham? 3 roach. Let's see, he's showing everybody how easy it is. Rich Wilson, kind of day have you had, mate?
They've had. I've caught some. I've seen some fish being caught.
Oh wow, amazing.
The Belgians.
Okay.
They fished in the same box as the Hungarians didn't catch anything in yesterday.
Right.
The Hungarians fished it in a absolutely flat calm.
Right.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is, it's just off the edge of that boat. I'll where that boat's moving now. I don't know if you can see.
Okay. Yeah.
Bank.
Bang in line with that. But
Flat
that
calm
boat.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Nothing. 1 kilo were good.
Yeah.
It's blown over there today. Wind, looked fishy. There were looked like a bit of colour. The barge has been running. The dredge.
The dredge. Yeah. That one there.
Everywhere.
There's another dredger over there.
And that's been, the bucket's been going down, and that's been putting colour in, and They've caught some roach that were worth catching 300, 400, 500 grams a piece.
Right.
And that's all they've caught. No little fish, just better fish. But everybody's only caught better fish. No ass, no perch, no nothing, just quality roach.
Unbelievable.
But not many of them. 15 fish, 3.5 kilo.
So there you go. I mean, that's really rich, just summing up, saying what it's like. You know, there are so many different fluctuations in depth. Every couple of pegs it's completely different. So we've still got, obviously, the majority of the week to go. So we're just going to build on what we've got. We're on a completely different box tomorrow. We're going to be right over there in the early numbers tomorrow. Completely different area, a better area we hope, where we're hoping there are going to be more fish to have a go at, you know. The third day of training meant that we would actually be further down the match length. We were going down to box 1, which was right at the beginning of A section. We're right down at the bottom end of the match length. I'll show you in a moment. It was forecast to be about 22 degrees today. It's definitely not that at the moment. It's very, very cold in that wind. The wind is a cold wind. Everybody says that a wind on this venue is going to help the fishing, so obviously we're expecting that to help if that's true. Obviously that's the locals saying that, so they know the venue better than anybody else. We've got cloud cover, as you can see, and again we're imagining that that's only going to help. Here's Eddie. Morning, Eddie.
Mate.
Morning, mate. What are we doing, mate? Just reducing some worms down?
Yeah, we're running all the worms through, get all the muck off them.
Yep.
Get them into tubs like that, let them condense down.
Yep.
Get a few more on top, let them condense down again. Eventually we've got so that it's like a dome shape on the top.
Yep.
We get the lid on, so we've got 100% worms in every tub, which will work out at about half a kilo.
Got you. And timing's key with this as well, isn't it? You can't do this the night before,
Obviously,
can you?
what we do is we riddle it off.
Yep.
We've got the fine peat there, which will give the lads a bag
to
put in with the worms on the bank. That's
Yep.
got to go in with your ground bait. Job on.
Eddie's done a brilliant job with this, and obviously you can see all the baits laid out here. The lads have been getting huge respect from the lads this week for the quality of bait and just the way they've organised it. And obviously this is training week. This will change slightly, won't it, for the weekend? You'll be doing it slightly different for Saturday, Sunday, won't we?
Yeah.
We're obviously here now doing it on the morning. We wouldn't be doing this like this at the weekend, but you can see the lads have got Richard's just going through the joker, as you can see. I think he's done the bloodworm, and that's the feed joker.
This is tomorrow's joker.
This is tomorrow's joker.
We picked this up today, but we're going to be using this tomorrow, just making sure it's spot on.
So you've got to think about your next step, you know, preparing bait for tomorrow. It's like when they've left their digs today, they're going to be, you know, quite often they'll leave bait out for tomorrow, so it's going to be all right for tomorrow. So they're not only are they managing today's bait, but they're actually managing it for, you know, for the coming days as well. We've got fresh bait coming out. We've ordered some bait from the tackle shop. There we go, and that's the final dollop going in.
Top like that.
That's it. As you can imagine, the more the worms are riddling, the quicker this process can be, but you've got to think of the quality of the worm as well.
There you go.
Fantastic. And that is loaded, ready to go into...
Where's it at?
That's it. That one is for Waco. Well, we've got a busy next 45 minutes now. The lads are really taking care of themselves as regards the tackle and the kit, where they're going to fish. We've now made sure that they've got all the bait that they need. So the next job for us is to head off to our respective sections. All three of us are going to be off on different sections, watching different teams. For me personally, I'm going to be up in box 5, which is just up there, where I'm going to be watching the Dutch team. There's Eddie finishing off the delivery, doing a great job. So I'm going to be on box 5 watching Holland today. So what I'll do is I'll check in with you after the session, just to let you know what we've seen, what we've learnt, or maybe what we haven't seen and what we haven't learnt. We strongly suspected that Team Holland would be a very strong team, and it gave me a great opportunity just to have a look at how they would tackle this part of the match length. Well, that's been an incredibly interesting session. It's very, very windy. You can probably see the flags blowing. This is box 5 where the Dutch have been today. This is where I've been based. As you can see, it's very windy. You probably can't hear me, so I'm going to take you down the bank where you can hear me all right. But it's been a really interesting session. I know this morning, obviously, I showed you a little bit of the behind the scenes kind of thing. But obviously, this bit has been all about the fishing. The Dutch, they've caught a few fish. They've caught a few bream. There's been a few roach caught. some asp and little perch and that sort of thing, but it's been by far a perfect session for them, to be absolutely honest. It's we knew it was going to be like this, but not quite as diverse. I'm just going to get in here because that wind is still blowing around the van, so hopefully you can hear me better in here. Yeah, we honestly felt it was going to be quite a diverse venue, and it's proving to be even more diverse than what we thought. Even within the space of 2 pegs, there are differences in depth. You know, I spoke to one angler today who on one of the sections, on his rod that was clipped up, he had a count of 11 seconds, and he's literally walked 2 pegs to his left and he's had a count of 4. So that's a 7-second difference in depth just over the space of 2 pegs, which is just unbelievable, you know. So as regards formulating a team plan, I honestly can't see how it's going to happen at the moment. I just honestly think that it's going to be a case of spending time on the venue, experiencing what's happening, hearing what's happening elsewhere, and then, you know, on the day, whatever peg you get, just read your peg, just see what it's like, see what the depth's like, see if there's weed there, and then just make your decisions based on that, because there's so many differences, so many variables. It's going to be impossible to put a plan together. From watching not only the England team, I could see that all throughout the match length there were still patches of weed. However, there were 1 or 2 bream being caught as well, and we knew that they would be absolutely vital on the competition weekend. The England team have been, or the Preston Innovations England feeder team have actually been in box 7, and that's been a much better box. We haven't had any great boxes. Yesterday was the toughest box that we've fished in yet. Day 1 was very, very tough, and day 2 there were some fish there, but there were small fish, and we didn't catch any bonus fish either. So it's really been a test. We haven't really been situated on loads of fish, and that can obviously hinder you. You know, sometimes you might think that that's going to help you, because if you draw in a tough section, you've practiced on the tough section and you probably know how to catch a few fish. However, when you're trying to spot feeding patterns, you're trying to find out ground baits that are working, you're trying to find out lines that are working, and looking for some sort of a pattern basically, then it's very, very difficult to do that when you're not getting many bites, you know. So that's part of the problem that you're going to have when this happens, and it has happened to other teams as well. You know, it's not only the England team. All 4 of the bank runners, including myself, have been out on the bank watching some other teams. We've seen a few things that have happened. I'm just going to get out of this van because it's red hot, and I'm currently waiting for the food place to open, and I'll explain why that is in a moment. So we've been out watching different sections, just getting a feel for how the other sections are actually fishing, and obviously seeing how other nations are fishing as well. The England lads have done their thing, so we knocked off at 3 o'clock. We quickly and hastily weighed everybody in, so we know exactly what the lads have caught. We know the number of fish that they've caught as well, so that will help. And then I'm here now just to book some food, or a table for some food, at 4:30. So the lads are packing away now. The venue is about a mile that way, so by the time they've packed in, the church is there, that's telling you it's exactly 3:30. By the time they've packed away, we're going to head over here and eat in here at 4:30, and then we've got about 45 minutes to have something to eat, and then we've got to go back to the venue, where at 5:30 we need to be for the parade. The parade is due to start at 6 o'clock, and that's really what's classed as the opening ceremony. This is just kind of a typical day in this sort of an event. You don't really get much time to yourself, but you know, it's a team effort. Everybody's got a job to do, and that's what we're all doing. Whilst I'm currently here, this place opens in about 3 minutes. In fact, the door is actually open, so it's open now. So I'm just about to go in there, book the table. Whilst I'm here, the lads are packing away. Dean is down on the bank, and then over that direction, that is where the bait lads have gone back to the digs to start preparing the bait, and then we're all going to meet back here at 4:30, and then all go on to the parade. The opening ceremony is something that's very special because it gives you a great opportunity to meet lots of the competing nations, and sometimes it's the only chance you get to see some of these anglers, and it's really nice to get a lovely warm welcome from both the organisers and the local town. It was the final day of training, and this is when lots of things have been crossed out. We'd highlighted a few things that could possibly work, and this is when we needed to fine-tune a plan going into that final day of training in readiness for the competition weekend. I'm currently just behind, I'm going to show you behind the England box today. We're actually in box 19. This box hasn't been fishing very well throughout the week. We'd heard it had picked up yesterday, but on closer inspection it appears that it hasn't. So we're thinking it's going to be another hard day's fishing. We learnt a bit yesterday. We were over in a different box yesterday. We were in box 7 over in the big crescent shaped A and B section, and you know, we caught a few fish. The top weight of ours was over 7 kilo, and I think the lowest weight was about 3 kilo, 3 something, which might not sound mega, but we definitely learned a few things. The wind is stronger up here, so apologies if it's a bit loud, but this channel then goes down into E section, which has been the toughest section. So this is kind of a boat channel. Now, through the summer months and the warmer months, this can be really busy with boat traffic. We know that, we've heard that, and at certain times of the week it can be busy with boats. We're not really expecting that now. As you can see, the way I'm dressed, the way everyone's dressed, it's much cooler now, it's much colder. We're not expecting much boat traffic, but to be fair, we don't think it's going to affect the fishing anyway. So that's looking down to, that's E section. Might just be able to get it in the shot for you. There you go. So that is E section. Down there is where that has without doubt been the hardest section, and that's going to be a very important section. The draw, we think, is going to be mega. Basically, the further you get going away from where we are now, the fishing tends to be a little bit better. It's still difficult, but that's what we're expecting to happen going into the weekend. So that's E section, and then the pegs here in front of you, we're looking at D section, and this runs right the way round, going down there, which goes round to C section, round the corner, which is where I'm going to be spending the day. So here we are. This is, as you can see, with the flag. Tom's got the flag up. We've got the lads there, as you can see, just casually chatting away. They're obviously ready in time. They've got plenty of time to get ready. And then as we move round here, we've got the lads just getting the bait ready now, finalising the bait measures and the tubs and everything. Headie's there, just portioning out. It's the bloodworm at the moment, and Joker, he's done the worms. That's Rich Wilson just coming back into shot, he's finalising everything. We've got a few maggots coming around that have been bagged up, and yeah, everything's in control. You know, we're as you can imagine, we're into a routine now. These lads have known what they've been doing all week long. They've done an exceptional job with the bait, and they're in a routine, simple as that. It will change slightly over the next 2 days, because we're on competition days, you know, timings and the way that we do things need to be done differently, but that's something we'll iron out tonight. So the duties for the bank runners and myself are basically slightly different today. We're going to have a couple, well, we're going to be keeping an eye on E section. We think E section is going to be very, very important as regards the draw, and so if there are any pockets of fish, if there are ways of catching a few extra fish, then that's something we need to know about in that section. We're going to need to know if there are any bream down there, because if there are bream in certain areas, if you're drawn an area where there aren't any bream, then we need to know what sort of a weight and what kind of species and what kind of numbers of species we might need to target in order to try and finish as high as possible in that section. It was great to see so much support on the bank. Joe Carras had actually come over from Preston Innovations. He was going to be doing the live streaming over the weekend and did a great job actually just keeping everybody back home up to speed and up to date with what was happening. Aid Cadell was there to give us a hand on the bank as well, and of course Tom was with us. Tom's been with us on several World Championships, and he's always there to give the lads a hand, and all that support really helps, because it just helps the lads focus on the fishing. We've just weighed all the lads in. It's been a very interesting session. It's been very clear that there are areas, as we know, where the depths are different. Some lads can get bites, whereas the next peg they're struggling for bites. Whether that's differences in depth, it could be features down on the bottom. We're not 100% sure, but it's given them a great insight into what this section is like. This is D20, as you can see. And D section runs right the way down here into this corner, into this bay. There's been quite a few bream caught today. Where I've been round behind the French in box 15. However, on box 16, that's where Belgium's been, and that is the area where they caught some bream yesterday as well. And to be quite honest, it's probably, whilst we've been in our knowledge of this venue, that is the most consistent area for bream. I'm not going to go into that too much because that's fishing and that's how the drawbag can affect things. So the lads are quietly confident. All of the preparation was behind us. It was Saturday morning, the first day of competition. Our role was just to get down to the draw nice and early so that Dean could do the official team draw to determine where the anglers would be for day one. Well, good morning everybody. It's just gone 8:30. We've got the strong coffee on the go. We were up at 5 this morning. As you can imagine, this is a little bit more intense from training week. We have got a tight schedule to keep, and all the lads are in the boxes. They've got the bait. We're going to be fishing 10 until 3, and as you can imagine today, throughout the session, I won't get a chance to be filming any sort of footage or anything. But I will be giving you a bit of a rundown later on today. But all the anglers are here now. We're just about heading up now for bait check. Basically all the anglers, there are strict bait limits here. And as you can expect with anything like that, it needs to be enforced, and that's exactly what happens at 10 to 9. At 10 to 9, the stewards, the officials walk down the line and check everybody's bait, check the quantities, make sure everybody's adhering to the rules, and that's why I'm heading up now. My job today is once again to run the bank for Steve Ringer, and so obviously I've got a job to do down here in D section. The draw, we really didn't fancy the draw, I've got to admit. An hour ago when we drew, it wasn't favourable at all. However, now we've seen that the actual placings of where the anglers actually are, then it's a lot more favourable than what we expected. So it's by no means a fantastic draw, but it's certainly not one that, it could have been a lot worse. But the worst one, unfortunately, is Steve, who's there now, just sticking up. So we think this is the toughest draw that we've got. However, there has been a bit of a rule change, and that basically means that this section, which is D section, this bottom end down here is completely different from the top end. But they have actually split this section, so that basically means that where Stephen is today, which is D20, we cannot draw at this bottom end tomorrow. It means that whichever angler ends up coming to this section tomorrow can only draw in the top half of this section, which is the better half. And that's what the organisers have done to just try and make this a little bit fairer. So yeah, it's been quite intense this morning. We've obviously got a job to do. I've got a specific job to do for Steve, and that's the signal for bait check. So I'm going to get up to the top end now, do the bait check. Hopefully all that's going to go well, and what I will do is check in with you straight after the match, when I will be letting you know how the England lads have gone on and just give you some sort of an idea of what the overall standings are. As suspected, that end of the section where Stephen was by far the hardest part of the section. He did a fantastic job putting a net of small fish together. To be fair, he was a little bit unlucky not to get any bonus fish, but from where he was, he did an absolutely fantastic job. Well, that was certainly an interesting day. In that office there behind me, that's where the captain's meeting is right now. Dean's in there, just kind of going through the section draws for tomorrow, just like we had last night. But it's been a very interesting day. As we'd expected, when you're catching larger numbers of small fish that sort of size, you know, 100 grams, 200 grams is always going to make a big difference, never mind when you start talking about half kilo and kilos. So it's been a very, very close match. Basically, we've ended up on 40 penalty points. That's 4-0. A little bit, obviously, you always want a lower score than what you've got, but when you looked at the draw that we had, when you're looking at 23 peg sections, it's not that bad. But one of the big exceptions was Steve Ringer in D section. That's where I've been today. Steve was always going to be up against it on that draw. He's fished a peg where we have actually practiced there, and we knew it was going to be difficult. So in Steve in particular, it was just basically a case of damage limitation. It was a case of catching enough fish to try and just finish as high up as he possibly could in that section. And at the far end of his section, in the low numbers, D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, all that area there is where some bream have fed. We expected bream feeding, however they haven't fed across as many pegs as what we thought, and the pegs where they have fed have been a little bit different from where they fed yesterday, so they have moved slightly. However, the bream have been there. So obviously when you're going up against bream pegs, when you're trying to catch fish that size, you're always going to be up against it. So we never expected Steve to be able to compete with those early pegs. That is pretty much what's happened today. However, the bream haven't fed quite as much as what we possibly thought. We thought the bream were going to be much more spread out. So in between the bream weights, there have been just nets of roach, 2 kilo, 3 kilos of roach and perch and all that sort of thing, which, when you consider that we could possibly draw there tomorrow, is quite encouraging in the sense that even if you're not targeting bream, you might be able to catch a few roach and other fish, but that's by the by, you know. We can't really talk about that until tomorrow when we see where we've actually drawn. So Steve's actually done brilliantly. Like I say, that's where I've been based today, so I can't really shed too much light on the other sections because I haven't been there. I've only been on D section, and admittedly I've been on the latter half of D section because they were the pegs that Steve was realistically competing with. We thought we'd got him at about 13th or 14th in the section, and he's actually ended up 14th in the section out of 23, which, you know, we definitely would have took this morning, definitely. But like I say, it's been incredibly close. 50 grams has separated points. You know, he's been a little bit unlucky in the sense that he hasn't caught any bonus fish. So he's had in the region of, without looking at the board, he's had in the region of possibly 55, 60 fish. But none of those fish have really been net fish. Lots of people have caught, you know, like a 6-ounce roach or a 6-ounce perch, 8-ounce, 10-ounce. He hasn't had anything like that, which is a little bit unfortunate. But the bottom line is he's ended up with 14 points. He's done absolutely fantastic. And the other surprise in that section was the MPEG. We expected MPEG 23 to not produce. We expected that being really difficult. It's been far from that, you know. I'm not going to take anything away from the angler there. The angler has possibly fished it slightly different from how other people have practiced there. But he's ended up with 100 fish, which is incredible. He's had a fantastic weight, 5 kilos. And Steve's actually had 3 kilos, just under 3.5 kilos. In a nutshell for you, basically we've ended up on 40 points, and that's actually put us in 6th place overall. Now that doesn't sound ideal, obviously. However, the winning team, Serbia, are on 29 points. So whilst we are in 6th, we are just 11 points behind the leaders, which on this venue is absolutely nothing. It really, really is. You know, if Steve had been a few pegs to his left, that could have equated to those number of points. You know, it really is so tight. So we're currently in 6th, and Serbia are leading on 29 points. So it's very, very, very close. Dean's in there now doing the draw for tomorrow. So tonight the lads will know what sections they're actually off to. And then we will be drawing again in the morning to determine the peg numbers within those sections of where the lads are actually off to. It's been a long week, and tomorrow is a massive day. We're only halfway, as they say, and we're right in it. We really are right in it. I've got to admit that there were a few nerves in the camp going into day 2, especially when we were waiting for the draw. We needed a draw that was going to give us a chance of a podium finish, and I think Dean's expression says it all when he actually did the draw and saw the pegs that we'd actually got. Good morning everybody. It's a little bit later than it has been the last couple of days that we're actually here on the bank. We've had a different matrix just purely because it's just trying to ensure that the same teams can't draw end pegs, and there's one or two other things as well. So the draw has taken longer than I expected. However, the organisers, obviously thinking about the anglers and the competing nations, they've actually set back or delayed the programme schedule by 30 minutes. So we are running, everything's running 30 minutes later than the previous day, than yesterday. So all the lads are at the pegs now. There was a pretty sharp frost last night. The temperatures really dropped. So we've got, it looks like the worst draw again is going to be Steve Ringer. He's drawn E1. However, that is right now. That peg is a little bit of an unknown. We don't know what it's going to plumb up like. If it plums up okay, i.e. the kind of depths that we've been catching fish in, then I think we're quietly confident that Steve's going to be able to find a few fish there. So we don't know that until Steve gets in the box and starts plumbing up and stuff. But, you know, it's going to be a big ask to get on the podium from yesterday's result. But if Steve's peg plums up okay, if the fish are still where Lee's drawn from yesterday, and if Rob's at the right end of the section, we've a chance. So it's going to be a hectic day. I'm going to show you Lee's peg in a moment, so I'll show you that, and then obviously I'm going to be giving you a full rundown on how it's panned out, how we've ended up, and just a bit of a reflection on how it's fished and everything. I'm going to be doing that obviously after the match for you. So we've got a very busy day ahead. I'll check in with you up at Lee's peg, and then that'll just give you an idea of where I'm going to be based today, which is going to be the first or the early part of D section. This is basically this is D10, which is right on the corner. There's Tony there. That's going back down to where Steve was yesterday, around the corner where it gradually got harder and harder. However, today, very different scenery. We're up here on this front edge in the early numbers. That's D9, as you can see. This is where the bream were caught yesterday. That's where Felix was, the German angler, 5 kilo of roach yesterday. And as we go down here, right in the middle of it all, is Lee Kerry. You can just see Dean Barlow there behind him in the box as Lee coming up the bank. Obviously, he's got a job to do today. You know, he's in an area for bream, so he's got to fish for bream. It would be foolish not to. We're just obviously hoping they're going to feed in this area. So Lee's got his work cut out, but he's definitely at the right end of the section. So that's it. It's just a few minutes before pre-baiting. We're going to get his heads down now. I'm going to be basing myself here, but I'm going to check in with you straight after the match to let you know how we've gone on this final day of competition. It was my job to just kind of keep my eye on Lee Kerry's section, and certainly that half of the section, and it was quite easy just to get absorbed in that and really forget about how the lads were performing elsewhere on the match length. And when the result came in, I've got to admit, it was a bit of a shock. Well, that has been an absolute incredible roller coaster. Still in shock, I've got to openly admit. I'm just going to get in the van out of the way because it's a little bit chaotic out here and we're a little bit shell-shocked. It's been an incredible day, to be fair. I've obviously been on Lee's section, and in all fairness, really Dean Barlow's kind of monitored Lee more than anything. I've kept going to him, just passing on bits of information and just trying to be as honest and as accurate as I possibly could about how many fish have been caught in his section. We knew he'd drawn in a bream area, however his first 2 hours were terrible. I think he's had 7 roach in the first hour and 7 roach in the second hour. He's obviously been aware that he's been fishing shorter than other anglers, and he's made a change. He's decided to go longer. I felt that was the right thing to do at that stage. I honestly did. I felt I was right, and obviously, and Dean said, yeah, go for it. You know, he basically said yeah. And he's put a couple of feederfuls of bait in, and he's gone on it, and he's had an immediate response. Now, whether it was just a change that's got him some bites, or whether it is actually the fact that he's gone further out. He's gone out further by 9 meters from where he was, and he's gone on and caught about 10 small fish and 2 skimmers, and that's got him back in it. And then from then on, it's just been a complete roller coaster. You know, I've been up and down the section, round the corner, round to the right where Stephen was yesterday. They haven't caught any bream past peg 9, I think it is. And to cut a long story short, Lee's just plugged away. He's plugged away. Thankfully, in between any sort of better fish, he's had some roach as well, which has really helped him. And it's been enough. We thought there was a chance of him finishing higher in the section. We thought he possibly could have been 6th, or I'd got him down as 6th. But it literally could be a few 100 grams either way. It could mean a couple of points. And that's exactly what's happened. He's ended up 8th in the section, but when I say 8th, he's actually been beat by an angler by 20 grams. He's been beat by another angler by 100 grams, and I think he's been beaten by another angler with about 130 grams. It's literally one fish, it's one roach. And to cut another long story short, basically, amazingly, we've ended up 2nd. So we've got a silver medal. We're actually overall in the competition, which is just absolutely incredible from yesterday and what's been happening throughout the day. It's been a complete roller coaster, and as it turns out, we're only 2 points off a gold medal, which, when you're looking at these margins, it's just, I still haven't processed it yet. I've got to admit, we only weighed in a few minutes ago, and I'm in shock at the minute, I've got to admit, and I know the lads are. So we're going to get off the bank. Dean's obviously just letting all the lads know the position, and we're getting lots of messages. So if you're one of those people that's pinging us messages, congratulations, thank you. We would have taken a podium this morning after yesterday, any day of the week. Never mind to finish with a silver medal and just 2 points behind the gold medal. It's fishing, you know. That's fishing. You have your ups and your downs, and sometimes it's nice and sometimes it blows you away, and that's exactly what's just happened. but you know, that's match fishing. We need to get off the bank. We need to get off the bank, and I'll check in with you once we get to the presentation tonight. As you can see, we're at the presentation now. The lads are, as you can imagine, enjoying a beer. We're going to sign off here for this. We can't film it properly. Mr. Kerry's done a fantastic job. So what I am going to do for you, as you can imagine, I can't really film this. Joe Carras has kindly offered to film the actual presentation. So I'll put that into a proper video for you with all the ins and outs of the week over on the Catch Fishing channel.
Did you get me a drink?
Yes, so I'll go and get it for you. It's over there with Joe. Dean, congratulations, mate. We're signing off here because I'm going to put a proper film together. Tonight we're going to enjoy this, aren't we?
Yes, even though I don't drink.
Even though he doesn't drink. But thanks for all the great messages and support.
See the stress lines.
And for now, the grand finale of the World Championship feeder fishing. We've got a number 1, we've got a number 2, and we've got a number 3. Number 3, the bronze medal is for Hungary. On Thursday evening, they had a lot of Belgian beer, Team Hungary. The silver medal is England, Team England. Winner of this year's World Championship feeder fishing. Give them a big round of applause, Team Serbia!
The Serbians had done an absolutely fantastic job to win this competition. Nobody really expected that. We were over the moon with a silver medal, and the very strong Team Hungary were in third place. But as you can see from the points, it was a very close competition. It had been another incredible event, and we really hope that you've enjoyed us sharing these experiences with you.